On this episode of Ecomm Coffee, we're talking about avatar identification for new e-com stores and how to adapt off of initial ad results. What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ecomm Coffee. It's Matt here, joined with Terrell, and what we're going to be talking about today, I think, is really relevant to a lot of newer e-com stores because we're right in the thick of it with one of our clients that is brand new. They have an incredible product that was backed off of Kickstarter in a matter of 36 hours, but they don't have a ton of hold on the market right now, and they don't have a ton of audience built up already. So this is a great example of us, not just being involved with someone that really, we're not just going out and grabbing low-hanging fruit here, which tends to happen a lot, right out of the gate, which isn't a bad thing. But this is just a great example. And Terrell's going to get into, some audience identification, and we'll talk a little bit about the content that's driving some of that. But this is just a great example of, the fact that we're operating an account right now that's brand new, like a lot of people potentially listening to this podcast. So I'm going to turn it over to Terrell to kick things off, and we're just going to talk a little bit about this client, what we're running right now and how we're really nailing down their audience through trial and error.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Matt. This client, it's a Kickstarter project. They started on there. They got fully funded in 36 hours, but it was still a pretty low funding goal. So it's not like they generated, hundreds of thousands of potential clients that they're going to be able to reach back out to. So it did start with a small audience. So you have to really take that small audience and use it to your advantage to find what they want. And so what they started with was what the product is it's a squat pint glass. It's called the Tubby. And so their whole thing is like it's a much better drinking vessel. It's glass hand glass blown product. It's has a sculpted rim. It's a nice product, but it's a premium product. It's between, depending on how many you buy at a time, it ranges between $12 and $19.99 per glass. So it is a premium product. It's higher priced. So they have their issues with really hitting market with that. So the goal here was to really locate the person to put this in front of that's going to purchase it, because it's a great product, but they really need to figure out who that person is. There's a lot of people who might buy it for a variety of reasons, but you have to find the perfect person, because that's the only way you're going to be able to sell when you're selling on Facebook, when you're paying for those purchases. They were in the beginning kind of targeting. They were talking about, hey, let's find people who like to eat ice cream and tell them they should eat their ice cream out of it. And drink your smoothies, like every other thing about it. And they would always mention drinking beer, but we really found that was going to be their niche. And so there's a few ways that we were able to come about this. So what we start with is we go through audience insights and find out, because they had a little bit of audience built in there on Facebook, and you're able to go through and kind of see the types of people that they had. And the people who had liked the page from the Kickstarter project were very, we're very into craft brews. They were into, drinking beer, IPAs. They had a lot of likeness in that area. And just to take a quick step back there, just talk a little bit, just mention a little bit more for people that don't necessarily know what Audience Insights is. Oh, yeah. Terrell, if you could just mention what that is, where it is, and what it does. Sure, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I should have talked a little bit about that. That's important. So what it is, it's a tool. It used to have a little bit more use to it, because you used to be able to load in your custom audiences that you uploaded, but they've taken that away in this year. And so you can still load in your page likes. And so loading in that audience does help to locate what people are, into, who like your page, what their affinity is towards other brands, and what their, what the possibility is of them to take an action on another page like yours. So it gives you a lot more insight into the type of people who like your page. So it's really helpful if you have garnered an audience that is, a big fan of yours, but it's not great if you have built this, off of, unscrupulous manner. There's some people who, buy likes on their Facebook pages. This was a while ago that they used to do that. Or it's, if you have a small Facebook page and it's just family and friends that you got to like your page, then that's not going to get you great information either. But they had a good audience of people who had purchased their product through Kickstarter for whatever reason. And so they now like the page. So we were able to load that in and really get a lot more information about those people.
Perfect. And as far as how many likes, do you need to do that? How many likes are on that page right now? Do you need 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 likes to utilize audience insights like that?
So as of now, you can load in, if you have at least 100 in there, you're going to be able to get that information. It can help if you have more. The more you have, the better your results are going to be as far as getting super specific. So that can really help. The next thing that we did in that path is we took that and we said, okay, let's assume that, that these are going to be beer drinkers, and let's just put some, beer type content in front of them with the tubby. And this was before we really even created anything. We just took some images, had a tubby that was next to a can of beer, and you just said, okay, let's put that out in front of a beer audience, we did upload a lookalike audience of people who liked the tubby, who had purchased the tubby, because they had an email list from Kickstarter. So with that lookalike audience, if you don't know what that is, all you're doing is you're uploading a custom audience list of email addresses, and then you take that once that's been uploaded and you create a lookalike audience of that custom audience that you uploaded. And that makes it so it really finds people who are very similar to that group that you uploaded, to go and find those people that are like that on Facebook. Okay, so then what we did is we took that and we targeted that simple ad at a lookalike audience with no real drill-ins within it, just to see how the reaction was. And we got some click-throughs and we got a little bit more information. We did the same thing with something with ice cream just to test it. And, the difference in cost per view content that they got was a massive difference. I mean, we're talking, 500% cheaper, even on the first one. So we right away said, okay, this is really a beer play, and this is what we should really be pushing on. So
yeah, and you'll have to remind me, but from what I remember, the assets we were using there were relatively neutral, correct? They're relatively specific to that audience. So when we were talking about testing ice cream interests versus beer lover interests, we weren't just taking an image of the product filled with alcohol and giving it to an ice cream interest audience and beer interest audience, which obviously wouldn't necessarily interest your ice cream lovers. They're relatively specific to that audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the whole thing with all of this. And kind of the point of the whole podcast episode today is to really hammer home the importance of finding that audience, that we just talked about. Go through everything you have to do to find the right audience for your product. And then the next step is you've got to create content for that audience. So yeah, you don't want to be putting a bunch of ice cream in the cup and then putting that in front of a beer drinking targeting audience and say, hey, it's the best cup to eat ice cream out of, because that's not going to do anything for them. On the flip side, you can target ice cream lovers with that same content and do something a little bit different, and you're going to get better results than your beer targeting. But when we're doing that ourselves within this specific funnel, we saw a lot more success right away with those beer drinkers. They wanted to know more about the product. Why is this worth the money? What's it all about? And at this time, those view contents, even on the beer one, were still in the $3 range. But it was between $3 and $4 per view content, which is pricey. That's not something you want to scale. So we took that and, we said, okay, it's time to really create some beer specific content and not mix in anything else. Let's just pretend this is the ultimate beer drinking pint glass, because that's the whole thing about it, right? Is that, this is a pint glass that's really short. So people are like, hey, that's a rocks glass. No, a rocks glass is between 4 and 10 ounces. This is a squat pint glass that fits perfectly in your hand with a sculpted rim and is just a great product. So, that's what we need to sell to those beer drinkers. And so, we came up with a few ideas, and Matt, I'll kick you over to you, like here on the, the content piece that was being created for them. We are in the holiday time frame. We are coming up on Thanksgiving, and so this idea kind of spun out and hit really well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So basically, just to take a step back from what Terrell was talking about. So we mentioned the idea that we were getting view contents at $3 plus. And for those people that didn't maybe listen to the last few episodes where we were talking a little bit about what that objective is, remember, this client is at brand new traffic. There's not a ton of traffic that's already at bottom of funnel, that's already viewing the site on a regular basis. We were driving brand new traffic, and our objective always when we're driving brand new traffic needs to be a very light step, like a video view or a view content. And a view content is basically simply when someone sees the ad, clicks on it, and just lands on the page and views the content on the page. Just an initial touch. So it was costing us about $3 to get someone to view content off of the video or image ad that we were running, and that really wasn't scalable. So what we decided to do, just kind of knowing and feeling the brand out. These guys are a couple of really, the two co-owners are a couple of awesome guys, very funny. They like the kind of tongue-in-cheek vibe to a degree. So, and if you, so basically what we did is we went for kind of a Harmon Brothers feel, like a micro Harmon Brothers video. If you're not familiar who the Harmon Brothers are, I strongly recommend you go check out their content, because the video content that they create is awesome, and it lives in this comedic vein. So what we did is we basically just created this video where we see a table with a turkey on it. So it's Thanksgiving dinner. It's just a one person sitting at the table, and there's a glass sitting right by the piece of, or sitting right by the turkey, a glass of alcohol. It was Pabst Blue Ribbon, just so.
Oh man, you went
we
cheap.
Spilling the alcohol.
You went cheap.
I just don't want people to think we were spilling like really expensive beer here and wasting that. It was Pabst Blue Ribbon. But basically what happened was we filled this normal pint glass with Pabst Blue Ribbon, and we did like 40 takes where this actor was just tipping the glass over as he was going for the turkey. And then finally we introed the tubby, and throughout he's kind of talking about the tubby, there's two speaking parts, and finally we intro the tubby with alcohol in it because it's shorter and wider, and he goes through the turkey and bumps it, and it doesn't spill. So we see, Thanksgiving 2012, 13, 14, 15, all flying by super, super fast. And every year he's spilling and spilling and spilling. And then finally 2017 comes up, and or 2018, and we just nudge the tubby glass and it doesn't tip over, and then we just end with kind of a product shot. But what it was, it had an essence of comedy to it. It got a ton of people to comment on it, like and react to it organically, and a lot of the paid.
Yeah, and I think one other thing there, Matt, is to go is talk maybe a little bit also about. I mean, it was a little bit of typecasting. I think the guy that you used in the video had a very I drink IPAs look, which is that, high end craft beer, going for those micro breweries. He's got a full beard, he's just the look that he had was, that's a guy that I'd like to hang out and drink a beer with.
Yeah. So let's do this for our YouTube viewers that are watching the video right now. I'm going to show that video right now. So you're seeing it. So we're watching it right now. And for everyone who's just listening on podcasts, just like Terrell said, we open, he's got a holiday sweater on. He's got a really thick beard. He looks like that kind of, hip character that's into micro breweries and craft beers and things like that. So we really wrapped everything around that audience specifically. And that's the most important part. And not only that, but we drilled into one feature of that glass, the fact that it's difficult to tip. There are many other features of the glass, ranging from, it's shorter, it's wider, and it's more comfortable in the hand, and it's just this experience that you have to have, and a couple of other things that we have in the works that more play on the idea of the pricing and things like that. So there are other features that aren't, this isn't just a anti-spill, anti-tip glass, but we drilled into that one feature. And the biggest thing I want everyone to take away from this is just this idea that we took this video hyper focused on one thing, went after that one thing. It was the audience and then that one feature, and that's what that video was. And we injected comedy into it so that it disarmed a lot of, because in the craft brewery world, like or craft beer world, you might get a lot of people that are very specific about the type of beer, and it's this new glass. What is this? So using comedy, we kind of were able to glaze over that and get people laughing and interacting with that ad. So that, again, that's one. And once we ran that ad, we were getting and still are getting view content prices of sub 30 cents. In some instances, they're like 19-cent view contents with 8 and 9 relevance
Absolutely.
scores.
And one of the things to tell you guys also is, this came in a sequenced over a couple of weeks of getting things right. You have to let these run for a little bit. So, hey, get it adjusted, change it on the weekend. Let's see how it goes for a few days again. And so, in between that first one that we talked about and this really winning one, we also did, a change of, hey, let's run a slideshow of the products. Let's run, something else that's going to run a little bit different. Let's do those. So those other pieces, once we knew where we were headed, we tried those. It was a slideshow video piece. That drove the price down to $1.25 view content. So hey, we had a big improvement, from $3 to $4 down to $1.25. So that's getting a lot better. And then when we went really specific and really high, high production quality with the content, injected that humor and a little bit of education piece into it without them really knowing it. It drove it all the way down to, like he said, 19 cents view content. Like that's just a massive drop in cost to send somebody to look at your product. And that view content means they went and looked at your product. They were checking it out. They looked at it. They didn't do anything past that, and we're not tracking that. We are tracking that, but at this top of funnel level, we don't much care what they do that first visit, because we're going to be remarketing to them at a couple different other levels. And so it's really all about getting that right content in front of the person that you want to sell to, but getting the right type of content that's going to engage them.
Exactly. So the two big takeaways for me from this are really these two things. Number one, we did not launch an ad, see secondary metrics indicate to us that it just wasn't working where we wanted it to, and give up. We went in and continued to adjust and refine our content and audience targeting, trying different things, constantly testing, and we were able to cut our view content price by over $3, right? So we started at 3 and change. We ended up around 19 cents, 30 cents on average. But again, some of those ads are returning at around 19 to 22 cents ish. So those are the two big takeaways, right? Again, so many people take an image and they run it to an audience, especially starting out, and they're just like, this doesn't work. I can't believe this. It's not even, this Facebook ads don't work, and that is just not the case. I've been reading up and watching a lot of content on a lot of drop shippers as of recently, and drop shippers in that whole industry in e-commerce has just been flooded with this idea that like you can you can spin up your own e-com shop, sit behind a computer and travel and live the life, get a Lamborghini and all this different stuff, right? The whole drop shipping, guru stuff. But the reality is the guys that are winning in drop shipping are implementing these tactics. That one kid that was just on Oberlo's channel that I just caught a YouTube video about, literally broke down exactly what we're talking about. He's like, here's how I see success in drop shipping. I saw these glasses and I realized that these cool like wrist snap-on glasses are going to be a big seller, especially come the summer. So what I did is I went and grabbed, a buddy that shoots video, and we shot video that's summery, and it's a lot of female centric stuff, and you see people snapping on the wrist. He took the target audience that he knew this would resonate with, created a piece of content that would resonate with that audience, and then went about testing it through multiple different campaigns. And he's a drop shipper. So Facebook ads are always constant, whether you're drop shipping, whether you're selling an item like this, whether you're working at a big company, you're working in the advertising department or marketing department of a big company, and you're tasked with doing these similar things. Facebook's tactics need to remain the same, and it's always going to be speed in testing and creating content against different audiences, and really refining based off of your performance indicators at each section of the funnel.
Yeah, I mean, I think that hits it right on with your second takeaway for me. Like the biggest one for me is that these Facebook ads, they work. They're not a billion-dollar industry, a billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company, because they don't have a great ad platform. The targeting is there. It's just, if they haven't worked for you because you tried them once and those don't work, Facebook ads suck. They didn't work because you didn't do it right. You've got to get that content for the audience that you're trying to sell to, and you have to get that combination right, and then you'll be able to see how well they work. It's just you haven't gotten that combination right. If you're saying like Facebook ads didn't do anything for me, then that journey is not right yet. And so you've got to get that audience correct for your product, and then you've got to put the right content in front of them, and then you have to have a product that converts. So you get those things right, and you're going to see that Facebook ads can succeed for you.
Perfect. Okay, just to take a quick step back, and then we'll wrap this up. So one of the things that came of this is that we're getting really great view contents, really great click-through rates, but there's not a ton of conversions on site. So this is just a little bit of a teaser for some episodes coming up. We're currently working with this client a lot on on-site conversion. We're following the audience, reading the data that we're getting back and saying, okay, our ads are working, people are clicking through, we have acceptable click-through rates, click-through rates that other clients are getting and are converting very well. So the on-site journey we need to start looking at. So that's coming up in a future episode. But just to take, just a teaser on that, but just to kind of come back. And I wanted to mention that because, again, a lot of people listening to this might just be starting e-commerce shops, right? E-commerce stores. And just as important as your traffic is your on-site customer journey. At the end of the day, you can drive traffic all day long. If it's not really well done, simply done, but really well done on-site, and we'll have some people on to talk more about that, it's just never going to work. So to take a quick step back on this episode, because we talked about a lot. Content and audience, extremely important. Match your content to your audience at top of funnel. If you're just starting out, always video views or view content objectives, and constantly test your audience and or your targeting and content, or audience and content combination. You want to think about your avatar, do your homework and audience insights off your page likes. If you have it, enough page likes, 100, 200, 300 would be plenty to try and get some semblance of an idea. So start with interests there, create content around those interests that relate to your product, set it up as view content or video views campaigns, run those across multiple ad sets, right? Test a few different interests against each other, and see what the results look like, and test a bunch of different creative formats. Test video, test square video, test 16 by 9 video, 9 by 16 video, test image carousels. Do a whole bunch of testing on that audience with that interest, with content that resonates with that relates to that interest. And on top of that, the last thing that I want to end with is that although we produce, at Ecomm Coffee, we have my background's in video production. We do very, very high-end video production. And and it works, right? People are getting accustomed to cell phone videos and stuff like that in their newsfeed, but that doesn't mean that cell phone video can't work. We've seen it work time and time again. One of our partner agencies, Bliss Metrics, crushes it with their strategy around the 3x3 why, how, what videos, right? So cell phone videos can work. So do not get discouraged. If you're new and you're listening to this, you're going, oh my, look, I can't, where am I going to get someone to go shoot a video like that? Get your cell phone, do something fun and grabbing that's going to resonate with your audience and add value to their day, whether they're laughing or whether you're telling a story in a very positive way or in a good way. Even with, with a cell phone, the strategies are going to remain the same. Match your content to your audience with a high-end video production or a cell phone video and start testing and stay consistent. And that's my biggest 2 cents really to put into this entire episode for our audience to take away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's, get out there, try, test, spend low until you see something that works and then start to scale and, make some sales. That's really the goal of all this.
Perfect. Well, hey guys, that just about wraps up this episode of Ecomm and Coffee. Until next time, we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.
We've been using executing across